Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in to Thurston County Connection, a production of Thurston County and Thurston Community Media. I'm Deborah Vinsel. Thurston County Connection is a monthly television show that connects you with your community. In 2017, the show brought us everywhere from local farms to machine shops, so let's take a look.
We begin with a clip from the very first episode from 2017 when TC Media CEO Deborah Vinsel introduced us to two new faces on the commission.
With me is Chair Bud Blake from District 3, Vice Chair John Hutchings from District 1, and Commissioner Gary Edwards from District 2. The commissioners have received questions from their constituents asking how they interact together as a team, and they wanted to give you an opportunity to see what their relationships look like and get an inside view to their individual personalities.
I am utterly bowled over at how not only intelligent but strategic Bud is.
Oh my God.
See, I told you put your hands over your ears.
No.
And by that I mean, here we are learning how, Gary and I are learning how to play chess, and this man's doing three-dimensional chess. He's playing on levels that I didn't even know existed.
I'm not sure that I'm not playing checkers.
Next, John Hutchings needed to renew his dog license. So while he was at Animal Services, he interviewed some of the staff. Let's take a look.
Well, here I am. I'm going to renew my dog license, and if you'll look, this is the second notice.
Funds and that sort of thing.
Let me ask you real quick before we get her out. Do you give these kitties like caffeine in the morning or something? They're flipping and jumping and playing, and they're hysterical.
Behavior.
It is hysterical.
Yeah. You give them...
Fleet Services is the county department that handles maintenance, purchasing, and upkeep of the county's vehicles. Commissioner Gary Edwards took us on a tour of their facility, as well as a road construction project to talk about safety.
Yes, sir. So part of the job that we do here in the light vehicle shop, besides maintaining all the county's admin vehicles and the lighter fleets from 1 ton on down, we do upfits, so we do new vehicle setups. So part of the new vehicle setup process is when we order a new emergency services vehicle, such as this one here, which belongs to West Thurston Fire Department. That vehicle requires emergency lighting, radios, and specific systems to go inside to help with the communications for the department.
Last summer saw Commissioner Bud Blake lost in the woods. Luckily, Thurston County Search and Rescue has volunteers with bloodhounds at their disposal. After being given Commissioner Bud Blake's scent, the dog was able to track him down just in time for Bud to interview some of the volunteers for search and rescue.
I want this dog to find me.
You did it.
What are you doing?
Okay, good boy. There it is.
Good boy. Nice job, buddy. Thank you. All right.
Thurston County is full of fresh produce, and Northwesterners love to support local food producers. In the summer of 2017, Commissioner John Hutchings took us to some of the local farmers markets and farms in the area.
We have numerous markets in the county that are open just 1 day or 2 days a week.
Correct.
And then at the peak season, we're open Thursday through Sunday. Tell me the difference.
Well, Thurston County is home to 5 markets. We have the Olympia Farmers Market, West Olympia Farmers Market, Tumwater, Yelm Farmers Market, and Tenino. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And Tenino, not to be forgotten, a very special
Not to be
market
forgotten,
in Tenino.
yeah.
2017 brought powerful hurricanes and destructive wildfires. It resulted in a focus on emergency preparedness. Commissioner Gary Edwards visited the Emergency Preparedness Center and interviewed some of the people whose job it is to keep us safe.
Here we are at Lacey Hit Fire Headquarters, and we're still with the Medic 1 activity. And here with me is Lieutenant Don Bowman, and Don's going to explain all the particulars that go into his job that has been going on now for well over 30 years.
Yes.
39 years. That is an amazing service to the public that Don's been performing. And so there's no doubt about it, he's an expert. He's going to fill us in on what's happening.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. What we have here is this is an advanced life support medic unit. We have about 7 of these around the county.
One hot button issue in our area is homelessness. Commissioner Bud Blake met with some of the nonprofit agencies that are trying to help out the homeless.
I'd like to talk to you about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and it's homelessness and housing here in Thurston County. I have with me today Shelley Slaughter,
and some members of the Housing Action Team, some members from the Coordinated Entry, and some members to talk about the Home Fund.
Thank you. Can we throw one more thing in there?
Sure, go ahead.
You hold that number up again. Thurston County, for our coordinated entry system, our 3 agencies are open during the day, and so for evening and weekend hours, we have developed a coordinated entry hotline, and that number is 1-844-628-7343.
As the giving season arrived, Commissioner John Hutchings visited the Thurston County Food Bank, the Salvation Army, and the YWCA to talk about how you can give to those in need.
I'm at Thurston County Food Bank with the operations manager, Judy Jones. Judy, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
So I remember when I first met Shane, he showed up in a white van, pretty sure he had his overalls on, came in with 3 children, 3 teenagers, and said, okay, we're growing some food, let me tell you what we're doing, and we want to donate it here. And I said, super, what do you have?
Well, that was a look at last year, but on this special edition of Thurston County Connection, we're featuring a roundtable discussion with the host of the show. With me is Chair Bud Blake from District 3, Vice Chair John Hutchings from District 1, and Commissioner Gary Edwards from District 2. There's no official business taking place today, but the commissioners invite you to attend the board meetings held on Tuesday afternoons at 2 p.m. in room 280 of Building 1 at the Courthouse Complex to see your county government in action. You can also view the county master calendar of events to see when other business meetings may be of interest to you. Thurston County Connection connects you with your community. So welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedules, I know. So we just had a great look at this program in 2017 and some of the fun things and agencies and organizations that you all work with, but that just doesn't even hardly scratch the surface. So I want to give you an opportunity to share some of your favorite moments as a county commissioner in 2017. I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Blake.
Sure. Thanks again, Deb, for having us here today. It's really important for people to see their government in action, not only on the serious side, but on the fun side, and just how we are taking everything in stride. So I have 2 items that I would like to mention, and my seatmates can chime in whenever. So one of them is that recently, even though it was we just actually made the official announcement the other day, it was mostly through 2017 to build it together. We have what we call the CPED. That's the acronym, CPED. It stands for Community Planning and Economic Development. And you might have known it, or people might have known it from the Resource Stewardship. But that name and that title, that change there has been phenomenal, especially for the almost 4 years that I've been in office. Been working to change it to have a more balanced approach between the economy and the environment. And we have a great leader in that position right now. And we look forward to a lot of great stuff as far as the community planning and economic development. So that title speaks volumes to what we're going to do here in 2018. The other item is more in line with Commissioner Hutchings and myself. We sit on what we call the Thurston Mesa Behavioral Health Organization. And also in 2017, we were able to become a LLC. So the BHO was a government entity through 2014 to 2017. And on December 31st, it became its own agency by itself. There's no government entity whatsoever, other than it is a quasi-judicial by 3 county commissioners chairing that board, but the rest of it are private citizens in the private entity itself, so it can compete on the open market, if you will, for bidding and funding and all those other kind of things. So it's a really good time to be able to see these things change and take care of the people of the county. So
great. That's good. How about you, Commissioner Hutchings? What were your favorite moments of 2017?
Well, you opened up with a lot of the favorites. And for me, when I look at that, I'm thinking the favorites are when I was dealing with people and or animals. And by that I mean when we did the Operation Santa Claus, we delivered carloads of gifts to 2 families living in one home. And that was exceptionally moving and very, very special. And then doing working with the YWCA in their program called The Other Bank, delivered a carload of donations to the YWCA, to The Other Bank, to help women with children, single moms and such, needing basic necessities of life. Donating a carload of donations to animal services, beds, extra food, those types of things and toys for the animals in the shelter. That's really meaningful, fun stuff. But what you didn't show was the other maybe 30 hours a week where we're sitting on our chairs and receiving information and trying to sort out policy. But that can be fun too. And I think one of the biggest accomplishments and fun, even though it was tedious, was putting a leadership team in place over this last year. We hired a county manager, a new public works director, or not, yeah, new public works director, a new Office of Public Defense, and PHSS, the Public Health and Social Services Director, as well as the CPED, people know it as the Permit Assistance Center. Putting this team of professionals in place that are ready to go with the right attitude to work with our human resources and IT or central services directors already in place to move us now as a group and as a team and progress our capital county into moving along as we should be at a maybe a quicker rate than we have been.
Great. Commissioner Edwards, what were some of your favorite things?
Well, those were all good issues, I agree. So I'd say ditto to what both of my seatmates said. I guess during 2016, I had talked quite a bit about making sure that the county worked with those individuals that wanted to make things happen and to help our economic engine get going. And during that process, we have what is called the Permit Assistance Center, but it wasn't always looked at that way by the public that it was trying to serve. And it closed down every day at noon. Well, to get that open took, I don't know, it took 3 or 4 months. And if it's one thing I found out about government, getting into this portion of government, was it moves extremely slow. And it was so frustrating to watch that slow progress, but the day that permit center actually opened up all day long. And that, like I say, took 3 or 4 months to get that done, but that was a day that I could see we were finally making progress. So that was an exceptionally good day for me, I guess.
Great. Well, I'm going to stick with you, Commissioner Edwards, because you and Commissioner Hutchings now have a year under your belt. Bud, you got a few more than that.
Okay.
But I know that you know, when you run for office, you have observed the office and you've talked to people about the office. But sitting in the chair, as you said, is a bit different. Mm-hmm. So what are the kinds of things that you have learned over the past year as new commissioners? Things that maybe you didn't know before about being a county commissioner, or about how our county runs, or things that might have surprised you?
Well, I found out that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew right off the bat. So whether you agree from a philosophical position with your prior county commissioners or not, those people had to do a lot of work. They might have had a little different agenda, but they were dedicated to doing their thing for their constituents. And I know they put a lot of work into it, and it does not come easy. It is so complicated, so many moving pieces. I often get asked by my constituents, well, how come you don't do this, or what about that? And as soon as that question comes up, they only see that one particular issue. They don't see that it actually connects in to about 7 other issues. It's kind of like playing chess. And so I have to give any of the prior county commissioners, those that have served years back or those that were more recent, I have to give them credit for the effort that they put in doing their thing for their constituents, and that's the democratic process. We reach a certain point, and then the community kind of shifts a little bit. Well, we think it needs to go this way or that way, and I'm just glad to be a participant in that event, that change, if you will.
So I got to ask, do you feel like you're on the chessboard now?
Yeah.
I think you're on the chessboard now? Okay.
And I'm not a good chess player, but I tell you what, it is a challenge, and making everything fit to come out with a winning strategy is not easy.
Right. How about you, Commissioner Hutchings?
Yes, and
you make an excellent queen on the battlefield.
That's funny. I've learned so much. We don't have time to go into all of that in just this short amount of time. It's a whole year of learning, and it is learning. I've learned things don't happen overnight. It's an exceedingly slow, tedious process, and reasonably so, because the process must be respected. And nothing happens overnight. I've learned how aggressively complex the budget is, with the vast amount of revenue streams that come in from various different federal, state, and local agencies, and money's dedicated, and no, it's not, and you can do this with it, and you better not do this with that. We get legal updates all the time on what we can and can't do with the budget. Another thing that I learned is how the legislature can step in and, oh, here's almost $1 million we're taking away from you, but you better not reduce the level of service.
Or here's something we want you to do, but we're not going to fund it
but
for
we're not
you.
going to fund it.
Right.
For example, the court impact fees were removed to the tune of $800,000, and that goes towards hearing state. We are the capital county, so any citizen files a lawsuit against the state, we hear it in Thurston County. Well, they just this last year removed $800,000, but we can't then say, okay, we'll just put your work at the tail end of the assembly line. We can't do that, because who suffers? The citizen. And that's not fair and it's not right. They get their day in court. So that process has to continue on. So I learned how the legislature actually can impede us, and hopefully with the capital budget now being freshly approved, and we haven't had an update yet on the Hearst decision, but see if that's going to be good or bad. There's going to be flip sides, I'm sure, to it. But there's other things that impact us from the Supreme Court, but also from the legislature. These external threats that come in, and yet we have to balance all these things. And just as you said, I liken it to a mobile that hangs over a child's, an infant's crib. You bump an issue here, like Gary's saying, you change an issue here, and boy, all these other issues over here are impacted, and everything has to reach a level of balance again. And as soon as you move something over here shifts and adjusts. It's all interacted. You have to keep these plates spinning all the time and keep your eye on the ball.
So, Commissioner Blake, you've been on the commission now for a few years, so you've been through this early learning process, but as Commissioner Hutchings says, you learn a lot of new things. So what are some things you've learned in the last year?
I learned that it can all be done if you really have keep yourself focused, and with the 2 new seatmates, it's been a blessing to be able to be the chair and be able to layer those things in a timely manner, looking at the calendar year, what you have to absolutely focus on, spend your time, money, resource, and effort so that you do not go off the range, so to speak, and to be able to have those inputs as you go along to build that policy and keep things up, such as the esprit de corps of, say, the county workers, and the morale. We want that to be, and the morale of the county as a whole, to know the people that we are working diligently and hard for them, and have that customer service as an outcome that they're looking for as far as in the in-state, as far as be it a fire service or a health service or whatever. That's all well intended, and in-state is there, but it has to be layered, and just that juggling act each month, each day, each year is all tied, threaded together, sewn together, and that's what I was super proud and accomplished be able to do, because in the end, we love having the citizens and the constituents have input. As I kind of commonly say, that you can build a road or a school, not that we do those kind of things, but if you do something in the neighborhood, if you're not talking with the people and getting in touch with them to find out what's going on, they're definitely going to come and tell you exactly where you're messing up or doing good. But so get out in front of it and be proactive and enjoy it and build it together as a community. So, yeah.
Great. Well, here's to a great 2018 and more learning as it comes. So the legislature I'm going to skip around a little bit, came in, has just started its work and finally passed a capital budget. So were there some legislative things that happened in 2017 or court decisions or those kinds of policy effects on the county that you were surprised to see happen in 2017, or was everything that came down the road kind of telegraphed in advance? You kind of knew it was coming.
Where are you going?
Well, let's start with you.
All right. Well, Hearst was a surprise to me. And I think
and Hearst is about water rights.
It's about water,
right.
inventory and such. And
wells.
And wells. And I think that came in December right before I took office. But that was a surprise. I'm thinking, okay, what's that mean?
Right.
Is there more?
Could you just briefly explain what that is for
can't.
viewers, or just what the Hearst decision was about?
Let me try.
Yeah, because it's about, not depending on the state, we have to come up, every county has to come up with their own inventory of water supply. Our inventory. So we have to, what do we have underground? Okay, the aquifers and such. And we have to guarantee water to individual homeowners and commerce and industry and such.
And habitat.
And habitat, all that type of stuff. And so I still think we're light years ahead of other counties, and it has a tremendous negative impact in eastern Washington, where water is exceptionally or exceedingly in short supply.
Because of farming.
Because of farming. And I feel bad for those counties over there, but it also put the burden on each county to do that. The legislature has now apparently addressed it, and I don't know, I think it's going to be good, but I don't know. So that was a surprise, the True Blood decision, dealing with the mentally ill.
True Blood, explain that, yeah.
Yep, mentally ill in our jails. Kind of surprised me. Didn't, but it did. Taking away some of the marijuana revenue that is accorded or afforded to the state as a revenue, even though I think it's what, 15,000 or
for us, it's 128,000.
128,000 has been cut, and so I didn't expect that. Didn't expect the 800,000, almost $1 million cut in that budget. Those are some of the things that I didn't see coming, because I don't have any impact. I mean, I don't have any. I can't impact those decisions. They just come flying in, if you will. And I might be able to come up with a couple more, but you have to deal with these things. I didn't see Summit Lake and shutting down the lake. I didn't see that coming. Nobody did. But you have to jump in, and now you're in a response mode, and you've got to take care of the citizens. You've got to take care of the water out there for the families and the kids. Drinking water, cooking water, cleaning, everything. You've got to jump in and take care of the business like that. Didn't see the fires coming in Rochester, all these natural disasters and other man-made disasters happening too.
So Gary or Bud, what about you? Are there some things that you were surprised by last year?
I guess I'd say that initially the first surprise probably was the Hearst decision, because as we came into office, all of these restrictions were laid out by the court. And we, like Hutch said, we didn't have anything to do with that. It was just dumped on our desk, if you will, as to how to deal with that. And the frustrating thing about that, I think people probably in the eastern Washington area probably could relate to a shortage of water a little easier than the people in western Washington. And so at the same time this ruling came out, and there were articles about it, and the sky is falling and you're not going to be able to do anything with your property. Well, we were probably in the rainiest time of the year, and especially for those folks out at Lake St. Clair, for an example. Their properties were being flooded out because of too much water. And that was a unique occurrence that's been going on for the last few years. So it showed that our aquifers had plenty of water, because that's a spring-fed runoff bowl, a bowl lake, I think they call it. So that was about as confusing to everyone. And so we really don't know what that compromise was last night in the legislature, when the legislature did pass some legislation addressing that particular decision. So we really don't know what it is, but having been around the legislative process for quite a while, I doubt everybody is going to be happy, because a compromise decision usually means somebody gets here, you know. So we still need to make that fit. And Hutch mentioned the Summit Lake issue. Well, we've talked about what is the problem for years, and in reality, these bloom situations that end up occurring sometimes create toxicity and sometimes they don't. And the scientists don't have a handle on what that actually is. But it forced us to kind of look, what are we dealing with? So water quality became quite a big issue. We've got the Capitol Lake issue. What are we going to do there? I think ecology is telling folks down at Lot that there's too much nitrogen in the outflow, even though the Lot plant that we have here in Olympia is a state-of-the-art facility, one of the better facilities in the world, not just the state or the country. And so to be told that you need to come up with an additional fix, and the number 200 million was kicked around, you know, that's what it might take, and Capitol Lake, and again, that was nitrogen. The Lot was nitrogen, too much nitrogen in Capitol Lake, and then that causes those same type of bloom situations. And so I think 300 million has been kicked around there. How do we fix that? Summit Lake, same thing. How do we fix it? So it really forced us to look at all the contributing factors that might be taking place. And we've always kind of been thinking, well, septics might be a problem, lawn fertilizer, runoff from different situations, industrial waste, that type of thing. And I think one of the big things we actually figured out was commercial application of nitrogen fertilizer to our forest lands. So that has become an issue to study, and it's a forest practice that's not unique to any one company. All the industry does the same thing, including the Department of Natural Resources. So here we are in a fairly wet climate, and the headwaters of our precious water system is, there's been 200 pounds of commercial nitrogen per acre being applied by helicopters. And it's hard to figure on when you have hundreds of thousands of acres that that's not having a detrimental effect when we're telling the citizens, well, don't let your cow drink out of the river. What's worse?
Is that a cowboy song?
I mean, it just doesn't match. So,
but yet we're all being blamed for that.
And we get blamed for all that.
Well, the citizens do.
Who's going to pick up that cost of repairing those systems? And out at Summit Lake, those people actually get their drinking water out of that lake. So it becomes even more important to them than say others that have a well. So a lot of that kind of stuff is, it becomes so complicated, and who's responsible? Who's going to pick up the cost? Well, a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis had no idea that this type of industrial fertilization was going on.
She gets it.
So was there anything in particular that surprised you in 2017?
I'm going to take a different view of it and say two or three successes that we have in terms of the Community Foundations of Health. There's a multi-county effort there for the legislation to give counties certain dollars to be able to do some of the basic wellness and healthcare pieces. We had about $115,000 from this iteration. There's another bill in the House or in the legislation right now to continue that, but that's one. And the other one is House Bill 1433, specifically the Thurston County. We were considering a new courthouse, and so pros or cons about that. We needed to expand the capacity for the financing of that, and we went from 9 years to 25 years, so we were successful in achieving that. Another one I'll mention, before their time, but at the tail end of 2016, the Growth Management Board ruled, the Growth Management Board being a part of the state legislation, ruled that Thurston County could have more or less visitations on the interim process for the pocket gopher, is what we call it, the interim HCP. And so this past year, or 2017, we went from 3 visits to 2 visits from June to October, and that's phenomenally great for people to be able to get more permits through. In fact, we cleared the backlog of permits this year because of that. We cut 30 days out of that. No, cliche is time is money. And so when you cut 30 days off of there, you're able to get those permits through there. And when we opened it up to 5:30 in the afternoon, it was a wonderful blessing to be able to see that happen as it's supposed to. There's some things that are coming here in 2018 could probably talk about in the permitting piece there, but that's 3 things that we did in terms of shaping the county and getting it on the right, straight and narrow. So.
Accomplishments that you're real proud of?
Yes, and that includes all the twists and turns and clogs in the pipe. We were able to remove a lot of clogs and get water flowing through the pipes metaphorically.
Oh, good.
For permitting, people can build on their property again within reason. We still have an eye on the environment and our habitat, but the water's flowing through the pipe that's been kinked up for several years.
One of the things we're thinking, we're coming close to a solution on the HCP, which deals with the gopher, and
HCP.
Habitat
Conservation Plan.
Right, so
okay.
we're still doing interims, but then we're working on a larger plan that Gary's about to talk about.
We're doing the interim process to kind of keep things going, and there's a lot of confusion that goes along with that, you know, and so initially in 2016, it was talked about regularly in the media and such that this was possibly going to cost the taxpayers $150 million here in Thurston County over a 30-year period. So we haven't completely negotiated that down. We're working with the Department of Interior, who oversees enforcement of the Endangered Species Act, and that's how that came about. And so we're doing our darndest to comply with the Endangered Species Act, but to keep the cost down for the citizens that are going to have to incur that cost. And so I really, I feel pretty good that we're getting close. I think we're going to have an agreement, and that agreement has to cover a large habitat area so that it's not just the gopher. I mean, there's birds and butterflies and frogs that all go in with this. And I think all of us want to have our environment as pristine as we possibly can. And we've identified about 30,000 acres that are set aside already for prairie habitat that'll never be built on. Now, part of that is, I think, 20,000 of those acres is Fort Lewis. And the gophers seem to do real good out there. So they're never going to have houses and that type of activity. So between coming to point out exactly to the public what it is that we need to accomplish, because they don't understand it. They just hear, no, you can't do this or you can't do that. And that comes back to that balance of working with another government entity, and they're all trying to do good things. And so we're trying to make it all fit.
So those are accomplishments and things that you were, you know, pleased to see happen. But what about challenges? I mean, you know, we've talked about some of them. We know there are specific challenges that face us. They were mentioned early in the program. Homelessness continues to be a problem. Obviously, the opioid epidemic is not, it's not a problem only in this county. We see this nationwide, and we talk about it. So talk about some of the challenges that you see facing. I'll start with you, Commissioner Hutchings. You see facing the county that you hope to make some inroads on this year.
Well, and you said the homelessness and housing and the wraparound services, the folks with mental illness, the disenfranchised, and the opioid obviously is going to be a challenge for every community and governmental agency in this county. But I think at our level, it's going to continue to be the budget is going to be a major challenge. Our costs as a governmental agency just to maintain services is increasing annually about 3% or so or more. Yeah. And yet property taxes went up 1% statutorily. And so we're still digging ourselves down. We're not able to come up again. So finding revenue streams, building up our economic vitality throughout the county is going to be a huge challenge, economic development, to get more revenue streams coming in that's not dedicated to other programs and other offices within the county. That's good, and keep it pristine and safe, so people don't come in and start grabbing. And I mean, you know where I'm going with that.
And those unrestricted funds they're not easy to find.
They're not easy to find at all.
Everything has a string attached to it.
Well, and there's and we might have an influx of a grant, but that's just a one-shot deal. Right. We need regular revenue stream coming in. We are still severely understaffed in the Sheriff's Department, and we're just coming off the heels of a Pierce County Sheriff deputy's funeral. And doggone it, I don't want that ever to happen anywhere, let alone in Thurston County. But we're woefully understaffed. But it costs a ton of money to hire deputies. We're understaffed in the jail, and now with the True Blood, we're going to have to put more staff in the jail as well.
5 of them.
And it's not just I'm going to go hire someone to get them off Craigslist and train them. It takes a good 6 months to a year to get a sheriff deputy hired and trained before he or she is out on the road and helping. And it costs a tremendous amount of money, between $10,000 and $20,000, to hire an individual. It's not just here's a employee handbook, now you go to work. I mean, for that profession, it takes a tremendous amount of money. So those are going to be challenges, because we're dealing with public safety, and people expect to be safe, and they have the right to be safe in their home and in their effects and at work and on the roads and such. And I just think that's going to be a huge challenge, managing the budget and trying to ensure we're doing something towards that end.
Other challenges that you can think of, Budge?
You want to go get it?
I mean, the budget affects everything, obviously. So.
Well, sure. You know, besides being the Board of County Commissioners, we're the Board of Health.
Yep.
And so the opioid issue is a big issue. And we have agreed at one of our prior meetings, because we can't agree on anything here today, because this is not a public meeting.
No action, right?
But,
conversation.
We need to make a change in policy on how we're handling information, for an example. So currently,
Give her the example.
An abuser can go doctor shopping, if you will, and that plugs up our emergency rooms, and as well as the doctor's offices all around. So you have an individual that's got an addiction problem, and they go here and get a prescription, and tomorrow they go over here. Well, currently there is a mechanism in place to track that, so that the doctor over here enters the patient's name and finds out that, oh, well, you just got a prescription filled over here. So no, we can't fill that.
Statewide, this is statewide.
Yeah, and it's going to be, and we want to be players in that. And to be players in that, we have to take a different policy action as the Board of Health, and that takes some action with our health officer. And so that's been available for about 5 years, and for whatever reason, it has not been put into place here in Thurston County.
Mostly because it's voluntary information.
Now it's voluntary, and we want to make sure that we're really getting some accurate reporting in, because we can actually encourage people to go into treatment if we know who they are earlier than waiting until there's a disaster. So we want to work through intervention to see if we can't solve some of these major problems.
And it's not just a major problem. I mean, you can actually put faces to it. Not only adults, but children and families.
Yeah, the spin-off effect is amazing.
There's a lot of damage done.
Bud, what about you?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Not only with the drug or the budget, the population growth is always concerning, because it not only has a shift of up or down. Right now we're kind of an uptick. It's not overnight that it's exploding per se, but just in that growth, you're going to have a certain amount of people who fall out and become criminals, or find themselves homeless in some way for whatever reason. And so our jail population has grown, and we at the county receive all the felons from the cities, let's say Libby, Lacey, Tumwater, and Bucota, what have you. We're the recipients of all the felons, and some gross misdemeanors and what have you, but our jail population grows. And I just gotta say that as your population grows, you're gonna have that certain amount of percentage of people who do not comply with our social rules and guidance and regulations, and they find themselves in the jail. We try our best not to put them there, but that's just the way society has said that. But there is a cost to that, not only time-wise, dollar-wise, and people-wise, but that's just the nature of the game. And the other side of that is the homelessness, in the same sense, not a vibrant or vibrant economy, and things go wrong at the home. They're one paycheck away, or they're chronically homeless. It's always an issue, from zoning to putting a roof over their head, be it a temporary or permanent supported housing, and what we call the wraparound services. That's also important, because if a person, because they're addicted to drugs or can't find employment, these services are kind of plugged into that home so that they can re-engage themselves and transition back to a healthy, vibrant society and be able to be a participant in our community. That is also a cost and doesn't come over overnight in terms of success, but we have great, wonderful, excellent people out there that are dedicated to these two processes to make sure that we stay healthy as a community, and that's what we look for from a Board of Health and or from a Board of County Commissioner standpoint. So.
And a lot of these issues are not, I mean, there are many things that you deal with that focus on the unincorporated Thurston County areas, because we've got city governments who do other things.
Yeah, they do.
But on some of the things that we've just talked about, the homelessness, the opioid issue, the community health issues, where are the connections with the other jurisdictions?
Well, I think we work pretty close with all of those municipal organizations, I guess. The Board of Health covers those municipal areas as well as the unincorporated area. Planning and some of the permitting and building, that maybe is all for the unincorporated. So there are the two. One of the things that we're trying to do is get our economic engine really percolating so that we can have enough revenue coming in so we can provide services in all areas. And at the same time, we want to encourage the right kind of growth and the right kind of businesses, so we're creating the right kind of jobs so that our people our residents don't have to get on the freeway and drive north to Seattle or wherever. It'd be great if we could get these people working and living in the community right where they're located at. And I mean, they talk about a carbon footprint and stuff. That cuts down on all that type of activity. So the more we can consolidate a lot of our activities that have to do with living and working and such, it just makes Thurston County that much more of a super place to live.
So just to kind of dovetail on that, we three have committees we sit on, and not every single committee is represented by another jurisdiction, but most of them are. So I can go to one committee and there's Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, Yelm sitting at the same table discussing that particular issue at hand, be it emergency management to I sit on the intercity transit, and so on transportation, that kind of stuff. So we have almost 30-something committees between the three of us, so 10 per, if you will. And then we also have Thurston Thrives as an initiative that the county, along with the Chamber Foundation, has partnered, so that there's many, almost 21 different people sitting on that board, that coordinated council, and most of them are from different parts of the jurisdiction. And then we just have other things that we have the Mayor's Forum, the Mayor's Commissioners Forum, where we meet regularly and monthly to discuss issues that are kind of small and individual or very localized, if you will. But it's all as far as a connection and a communication between each jurisdiction. There are times when we disagree with each other respectfully, and when we go our different ways. But many times, I'll say 80% of the times, we're all moving in the right direction. It's just that, it's the best thing in the world to be able to have that discussion and respectfully disagree and wholeheartedly agree, and it's a really good feeling. So,
okay. We do not work in isolation,
right?
Because there are the lot is a board comprised of all electeds. And I sit on the lot board, the Thurston Regional Planning Council, Animal Services, Joint Animal Services. Everything we do, the transportation policy, we're all connected with these elected, so we have to work together. When it comes to annexation issues, we have to work with the jurisdictions. When it comes to a courthouse, there's competing interests, and we're working with those organizations as well. But I think especially when it comes to public health and social policy, we realize that those that are in need of services, adults or children, aren't geographically or zip code specific. They move all around. And so we have to work together to put the overarching umbrella over these folks and help them in every way we can. And we can't do it alone. Olympia can't do it alone. No jurisdiction could do it. Yelm, Tenino, they can't do it alone. So they depend on us, and we depend on them as also for that collaboration and assistance. And sometimes they've got some great ideas.
Mm-hmm. I might point out all these boards and commissions that we oversee. Just think of the number of volunteers out of the community that step forward and dedicate their time, commitment, and knowledge to a particular issue. And it is amazing.
From shellfish to garbage to
it's
veterans
unbelievable
to
what goes on.
Agriculture.
You know, and we sound like we get along, and we get along pretty good. But like Bud said, we don't always agree. I would encourage the public to come to some of the meetings. They'll see some spirited conversations, and the vote isn't always unanimous. But I think that's what makes our system healthy.
But it's disagreement without dissent, is what I like to say. Yeah, so we don't descend to the lower level, fighting each other, whatever. We just move on.
Disagreement without being disagreeable.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when I disagree with these guys, and vice versa, we still walk away very professional and friendly. And I shouldn't be bowled over, but every time staff comes to me at all levels of the county, and they say, we have never worked with in such a great culture environment as we are this last year. It's wonderful. You folks are professional. You commissioners, you can disagree. You're reasonable people, and you can walk away later and pat each other on the back and yuck it up and be happy. I love to hear that, to the point where people think they think I'm goofy anyway. But when I go in on a Monday and I say TGIM, I get to do it for another week.
Yeah.
It's fun. I absolutely love it.
Well, that's a great segue to...
You're welcome.
Because, you know, a year ago we sat here and we were introduced to you, Commissioner Hutchings and Commissioner Edwards, as the newest members of the County Commission. So now you've got a year under your belt. What are your thoughts about serving as a county commissioner?
Well, I'll finish up since I'm already there if you want.
Go.
I love it. I absolutely love it because it's energizing. It's every point on the spectrum. It's exhausting. It's invigorating. It's boring. It's exciting. The adrenaline gets going, and sometimes you get kind of weary because you get, you're sitting too long. You have a ton of information coming, and you're processing it. I'm thinking about this all the time. I go home at night, and I'm on my phone doing some email or checking it out in the morning because it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. But I love the engagement because it's fun and it's meaningful. For me, it's very meaningful work because I'm having a positive impact on this community and hopefully for generations to come, not just for today or next year, but for generations.
Great. How about you, Gary? What are your thoughts?
I tell you, I am thrilled to be here, but I think there's always room for improvement. And so I think the more we learn, you'll notice that our board has remained the same and our committee assignments have remained the same. That isn't always done on county commission boards. There's a reason, in my estimation, there's a reason for that. Bud kind of knows what's going on. He's the senior guy. Maybe not in age, but he's the senior guy here.
I'll take that.
And so I think it was beneficial to maintain the same relationship that we've got. We're really just familiar with the boards and commissions that we're sitting on or overseeing or whatever that arrangement is. So why change something that sure seems to be working? And so I'm just looking forward to try to do the best job that we can possibly do with the limited resources that we have to do it with. And I think that is the challenge, to do what we can do. And I often get asked, well, what's your agenda? Well, my agenda is to do the right thing. And I want to do that right thing based on all the information, not just part of the information, but all of the information. Even if it doesn't match somebody else's agenda, they just soon forget we're putting nitrogen fertilizer on. You know, they're going to cover that up. We won't talk about that. Let's talk about septic or horses drinking out of the river. That's not fair. So we need to take everything into consideration. That's where I'm at.
Okay. So we're in the last few minutes of the program, and I do want to give you a chance just to, you know, share something with the viewers, with the citizens of Thurston County. Are there things that you want them, something that you would like for them to know specifically? And I'm going to start with you. Oh, okay. I'm going to give you a minute and a half, max. A minute and a half, max.
I got to cut it off.
32 seconds. Good
luck with that.
Okay, we're going to keep an eye on it here.
So,
okay.
Comments to the citizens.
No, I think I would just like everyone to know, and it's not just me, I feel about my seatmates the same way. We're frustrated with how long it takes to get things done. Please be patient with us, that we have your interests at heart. We don't have a personal agenda in this. We want to do the right thing, and it is just unbelievably how slow government goes. And we're just going to keep going. We know we have some objectives, and I think we're going to reach those objectives, and that's, so I'll cut it off short for the first time.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Hutchings.
You want to go next?
No, no, you go.
Okay, the same thing. Be patient, because like I said earlier, things don't change overnight. Be assured, I want the community to know that we have our eye on the ball. We have it on the budget, we have it on the environment, we have it on our habitat. We have their best interests at heart. And if anybody wants to know what we are doing or what I am doing, you're welcome to come to the BOCC meetings. Check out Thurston County Facebook page, check out our website, or John Hutchings, Thurston County Commissioner, District Number 1, and see what I'm doing in the community, in the community outreach that I'm doing on a regular basis. But we are on it, and we're in it for the long haul.
Okay. As the chair of the commission, I'm going to give you the last word.
Okay, sure. Kind of wrap it all up for myself in answering your question. I feel I am absolutely a truly blessed man in the sense of be able to serve this country for 25 years as a military guy, but my efforts out there to protect this country, both the Constitution, 27 amendments, and then come home and be able to run for office and become a county commissioner. I wish I could know every single person's story, the 260,000 people that exist in this county, and know what makes them tick and want to get up and go to work and play and live in this county and keep it thriving generation after generation. For me, when I first came in the office, I was having a lot of fun learning about bridges and public safety and land use and whatever. Here lately, I find myself learning more about health and how health plays a role in every single thing we do, from sleep to wellness to drinking water to air. And that's kind of a no-brainer in a lot of ways, but just how things have changed in terms of social issues and the social climate of that, and technologies that are involved and that kind of stuff. So to me, I would just say look forward to a great 2018 with having a healthy lifestyle and a healthy, prosperous Thurston County. So,
great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for squeezing this into your schedules. I mean, I think this conversation we've had demonstrates just how very complicated your jobs are, and the issues that you face are complex, with layers and layers and layers of complexity, and there are not simple solutions to complex problems. So thank you for your service to the community and to our county, and thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Thurston County Connection. To watch more episodes of Thurston County Connection, tune in on Channel 3, or at your convenience, you can go to tcmedia.org to check out the YouTube videos that we have for the county or our video on demand. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Deb.